Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now AMD's Ryzen APUs are a huge step up over previous iterations, which in comparison can't really run AAA titles smoothly anymore. With both the R3 2200G and R5 2400G capable of playing modern and demanding games to some extent, it got me thinking, for how long will they be able to keep up, and which games will prove to be too much? Well, every so often I'll be pitting these two against a newly released game to see just how well they do, and today's title is Far Cry 5. It's not often I'll make one game the subject of a video, but looking at some of the recommended specs, and it's clear that this may be a pain to run. So are these APUs up to the challenge? Well, let's start off with the cheaper Ryzen 3 2200G with onboard Vega 8 graphics. With the GTX 670 and R9 270 listed by Ubisoft as the minimum for 720p low settings, I thought this may be game over for the Ryzen APUs before we had even got anywhere. With 4 cores, 4 threads and an onboard Vega GPU all for £80 or $99, the results were immediately surprising with 38 FPS at the low settings. Even with minimum with anti-aliasing off, Far Cry 5 is very good looking. Turning things up to medium saw no real performance loss, with 35 frames per second on average. It's worth mentioning that on all settings there will be moments where the game slows down for about 2 to 3 seconds, during which time you'll run at about 10 frames per second, but those moments thankfully seemed few and far between, even during combat. High settings was where we started to see the limitations of the 2200G, with some drops below 30 FPS. We still averaged 32 FPS though, and once again there were a few frame drops, but the game still held itself together pretty well, even with plenty of explosions on screen. In my experience, Ubisoft games tend to run a bit, well, not perfect, let's say, but here things were very smooth. While turning things up to 1080p just isn't an option, 900p with the low settings certainly was. Bear in mind that the wide open areas I've been sticking to may be helping out the frame rate, but the figures were taken from the in-game benchmark. The CPU and GPU are also both at stock speeds, and the RAM is clocked at just 2400 MHz to give you a worst case scenario type of look at performance, though these results are far from bad for a $99 APU. Moving on to the Ryzen 3's bigger brother, the Ryzen 5 2400G with Vega 11 graphics, and to be honest, performance didn't differ too much. The game averaged 39 FPS, though there was less strain on the CPU, as you can see, which gave us a little more breathing room. There is no significant difference over the 2200G here though at these settings in terms of average numbers, but the increased minimum figures mean there will be fewer stutters. Turning things up to medium saw 37 FPS again with a pretty smooth overall experience, and Far Cry 5 also has a built-in resolution scale option, which was set to 1 or 100% and could be changed to increase FPS a little more, with greater graphical sacrifice of course. Just like with the 2200G, high settings was achievable, though ran a little better here with 33 FPS and some drops below 30. Nonetheless, it was still an enjoyable experience playing this game at this resolution, though 1080p once again wasn't really an option. But 900p ran fine. Again, 30 FPS was the average, and there was a bit of graphical glitching going on here with the road textures not loading, though I'm not 100% sure that this wasn't how it's supposed to look. Overall, Far Cry 5 will run fine at 720p resolution or 900p low on both the 2200G and 2400G from AMD. It's not ideal, as you will see some performance issues, but for any of you considering one of these or considering the game if you already have one of these APUs, then hopefully this will give you some idea of whether you want to run it on a Ryzen APU or not. Thank you for watching. This video has probably been a little bit different, but I want to see just how long these APUs can hold up for, so I plan to keep them in a separate system for a few years to come. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it. Leave a dislike on it if you didn't. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Let me know if you run with one of these APUs in your PC, and if so, which one. And hopefully I'll see you all in the next one.